Barack Obama, A Promised Land. Get ready to dive into the inspiring journey of Barack Obama, as narrated in his memoir, The Promised Land. From his humble beginnings to becoming the 44th President of the United States, Obama's story is both captivating and deeply insightful. Through his eyes, you will learn about the pivotal moments of his life, his personal struggles and beliefs, and the challenging political landscape he navigated. This summary covers a wide range of topics, from his rise to national prominence, the 2008 presidential election, the monumental Affordable Care Act, to his pursuit of international diplomacy and eventual vindication with the capture of Osama bin Laden.
Obama's transformation through reading. Born in 1961, Barack Obama grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii, with his mother and grandparents, an average student with an ordinary life. However, his voracious reading habit later led him to a remarkable political journey. Obama discovered political theory while trying to impress women in college, but eventually embraced the practical aspect of politics while working for communities in Chicago. He then joined Harvard Law School, where his academic success opened up high-status job opportunities, although he chose a different path. Barack Obama might have seemed like just any other kid growing up in Honolulu, Hawaii. He was a mediocre student, an okay basketball player, and mostly interested in partying. No one could have predicted his rise to political stardom, let alone becoming the President of the United States. However, his questions about racial disparities, social inequality, and financial struggles sparked a deep curiosity in young Obama that led him towards politics. Turning to books, Obama began to devour information, which helped him to develop a strong grasp of politics even before starting college in 1979. Although initially reading to impress others, mainly the ladies, he found himself captivated by the world of political theory. As he transferred to Columbia, this fascination took an intense turn, steering his focus towards practical applications of politics. While some might have found him less fun to be around, Obama found solace in his exploration of ideas, seeking ways to apply them in reality. Upon graduating, Obama took a job in Chicago, working with a group that aimed to stabilize communities hit hard by steel plant closures. This experience made him confront the everyday struggles of real people and come to terms with his own identity as a mixed-race black man. However, it also made him realize the need for greater power to effect change on a larger scale. That was when he decided to apply to Harvard Law School, where his life transformed once again. Much like his undergraduate years, Obama spent his time at law school reading extensively about civics. This time, his knowledge reaped significant rewards as he was elected head of the Harvard Law Review, landed a book deal, and received numerous high-paying job offers. Yet, instead of chasing high-status opportunities, Obama sought a different path, continuing his pursuit of using politics to create a positive impact on communities and people's lives. The Audacity of Hope. Barack Obama's pivotal moment emerged in 2000, with his life appearing stable through marriage, fatherhood, and a legal career. However, an unsuccessful run for the House of Representatives prompted self-reflection. Recognizing his desire to unite Americans of various backgrounds, Obama decided to make one last attempt in politics by running for the Senate. With strategic help from media consultant David Axelrod, he tapped into the hopes and concerns of everyday Americans. Invited to deliver the keynote address at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, Obama's speech, centered around the Audacity of Hope, propelled him into national recognition and a landslide Senate victory. In 2000, Barack Obama's life seemed to be on track with his marriage to Michelle, a successful attorney, the birth of their daughter Malia, and a flourishing career in law. He even won a state Senate position. However, ambition led him to chase after a seat in the House of Representatives against a popular incumbent, despite Michelle's wishes for him to remain closer to his family. He ended up suffering a crushing defeat, losing by 30 points. In the face of this loss, Obama re-evaluated his life path and realized that he was yearning for more, believing in his ultimate vision of unifying Americans across political, racial, and socio-economic lines. He understood that his brand of politics would be better suited for the national stage, such as the Senate. With Michel's hesitant support, he decided to give politics one last shot, vowing to leave the arena if he failed once more. Partnering with David Axelrod, a skilled journalist and political media consultant, Obama found the boost he needed. Axelrod helped Obama refine his message, and a powerful anti-Iraq war speech delivered by Obama quickly went viral. With this newfound momentum, the campaign received a surge of volunteers and donations, proving that Obama's approach resonated deeply with the American public. Ultimately, Obama was offered the honor of giving the keynote address at the 2004 Democratic National Convention. As he drafted his speech, he aimed to encapsulate the political ideas that had inspired him since college, drawing upon lessons from his parents and grandparents. He chose the phrase, "the audacity of hope," from a sermon by his pastor in Chicago to define his message. This speech marked a turning point in Obama's career, as he soared into national prominence. Just weeks later, he won his Senate race by a landslide, proving the power of his unique brand of hope-driven politics that would eventually lead him to the presidency. The time chooses you. Barack Obama's rapid rise to political stardom after his DNC speech in 2004 eventually led him to consider running for presidency. With encouragement from key political figures like Senator Ted Kennedy, and a powerful grassroots support base, he announced his candidacy in February 2007. Despite his inexperience and competition against Hillary Clinton, he persevered and ultimately won the critical Iowa primary caucus, marking the beginning of his unforgettable race to the White House. The sudden hype surrounding Barack Obama after his memorable speech at the Democratic National Convention, DNC, made him an instant star. His day-to-day life drastically changed as he encountered difficulties maintaining a low profile, with his family jokingly suggesting humorous aliases and cosmetic procedures to regain anonymity. Constantly bombarded by people suggesting he'd one day become president, Obama wasn't entirely convinced at first. However, by spring of 2006, the media pressure and persuasive words from Nevada Senator Harry Reid gradually softened his reluctance. The real turning point came after an encounter with Senator Ted Kennedy, who, invoking the spirit of his idealistic brothers, John and Robert, told Obama, "You think you may not be ready. But you don't choose the time. The time chooses you." Embracing Kennedy's words, Obama announced his candidacy for president in February 2007 and proceeded to campaign at Iowa's primary caucus. The masses flocked to see him, which surprised experienced political operatives. Despite being a young and unconventional candidate, Obama had an impressive team led by David Axelrod and substantial financial support. Moreover, he gained a significant advantage from thousands of passionate young volunteers who helped spread his message in Iowa. As Obama continued to gain momentum, his main rival, Hillary Clinton, grew increasingly concerned about her chances of becoming the Democratic nominee. The rivalry between their campaigns peaked in a heated argument between the two candidates on an airport tarmac in Des Moines, Iowa. Nonetheless, this clash had little effect on Obama's trajectory as he decisively won the Iowa caucus by 8 points, solidifying his place in what would become an iconic race to the White House. Navigating chaos to victory. Despite the high from the Iowa win, Obama's campaign faced numerous struggles, including losing the New Hampshire primary, Reverend Jeremiah Wright's controversial statements, and unfair attacks on his character and racial background. Nevertheless, Obama persevered, holding rallies that energized voters, making an impactful speech on race, and ultimately securing the Democratic nomination. The euphoria of the Iowa win didn't last long, as Obama's campaign suffered a crushing defeat in the New Hampshire primary. Yet, this setback turned out to be a pivotal moment that taught the team they needed resilience and determination to push forward. Further issues arose when Reverend Jeremiah Wright, an old friend of Obama's, made incendiary comments about white supremacy and black inferiority during a Sunday service. The incident highlighted Obama's complex relationship with the black community, revealing that some doubted America's readiness for a black president or Obama's ability to represent them. But challenges didn't stop there, as Obama faced baseless accusations from the right-wing press, such as being labeled a drug dealer and a gay prostitute. Both he and Michelle were also targeted by race-based attacks, exemplified by a Fox News segment that referred to Michelle as Obama's baby mama. Despite these hurdles, Obama steadily gained traction in states like South Carolina, thanks to a historic turnout from black voters. His rallies attracted people from all walks of life, providing immense energy to the campaign. However, he feared the weight of expectations from people who projected their hopes and dreams onto him. The Reverend Wright controversy resurfaced and a video compilation of his inflammatory remarks, such as, "God damn America," went viral. It threatened the campaign's survivability as it fueled worry among those who were uneasy with the idea of a black president. In response, Obama took a risky step by crafting a speech addressing race. He wanted to convey that while Wright was part of his story, so were the complexities of his white grandmother's experience. The speech proved to be a success, reaching a record-breaking 1 million views within 24 hours, and it ultimately helped to halt the negative effects of the controversy. As the next round of primaries unfolded, it became evident that Obama would become the Democratic nominee, pulling through despite facing immense adversity and navigating a roller coaster of events. Unlikely partners to victory. Despite initial differences, the partnership between Barack Obama and Joe Biden grew stronger, enabling their victory against Republican opponent John McCain, who faced challenges during his campaign that ultimately led to Obama's success. The period marked a tumultuous time in the nation, marked by the looming financial crisis. Barack Obama and Joe Biden seemed to be an unlikely pairing at first. With a significant age gap of 19 years, Biden, a seasoned congressman, was quite different from the youthful and ambitious Obama. However, when it was time for Obama to choose a running mate, Biden's intelligence, compassion, and heart made him the ideal choice. As the elections approached, Obama and Biden gained an advantage in the polls. Meanwhile, Republican candidate John McCain announced his choice of Sarah Palin as his running mate, catching the public, including Biden, by surprise. Although she wasn't well versed in various political issues, Palin's relatability attracted voters who identified with her working-class background. This marked a trend in American society where partisan loyalty and political strategies seemed to overshadow other considerations. Despite McCain's commendable traits and history of courage in the Senate, his presidential campaign faced obstacles. He was heavily influenced by his party's more conservative wing, and the escalating populist sentiment further complicated matters. However, external events proved to be more challenging for Obama's campaign. The global financial system was on the brink of crisis, with no clear indication of when or if it would recover. Subprime mortgage lenders declared bankruptcy in late 2007, leading to massive losses for financial institutions and ultimately pushing the United States into a recession by spring 2008. These events significantly affected McCain's campaign, which had already been struggling. When he suspended his campaign under the pretext of addressing the financial crisis, many saw it as a desperate move, making Obama's victory appear more likely. As the tide turned in Obama's favor, ubiquitous hope posters featuring the soon-to-be president's face in red, white, and blue became the symbol of the impending change. On Election Day, as the results showed a considerable lead for Obama, he watched the polls with his family, including his mother-in-law, Marion Robinson. For Robinson, who had grown up during a time when the idea of a black president seemed an unfathomable dream, the overwhelming support for her son-in-law was nothing short of astounding. Rescuing an economic collapse. The winter of 2008 was a crucial period as President-elect Obama grappled with the challenge of stopping the collapsing economy. The stock market had lost 40% of its value, and household wealth had dropped tremendously, while various other factors painted a dire economic picture. President-elect Obama set out to pass a fiscal stimulus bill, which aimed to benefit many facets of the economy, from increasing food stamps and extending unemployment insurance to providing tax cuts and assisting states to avoid employee layoffs. However, achieving bipartisan support in Congress proved to be a daunting task. Bipartisanship had become a nostalgic memory, and as the center-of-the-road politicians struggled to hold their positions, a new wave of political leaders had emerged, ones who refused to compromise. Republican Senate leader Mitch McConnell exemplified this approach. Known for his bland demeanor, unwavering partisanship, and dismissive attitude, McConnell dedicated himself to obstructing President-elect Obama at all costs. Obama sought to work across party lines, but faced with intensifying Republican opposition, the chances of cooperation appeared to be fading. Reports of McConnell instructing his caucus not to engage with the White House only served to solidify the resistance. This refusal to negotiate on vital legislation came at a significant cost, as the country desperately needed resuscitative economic measures. In the end, the Recovery Act was passed without a single Republican vote. The Democrats in the House were able to carry it through, but the entire episode represented the beginning of an unrelenting assault on Obama throughout his presidency by McConnell and his allies. This confrontational stance further deepened the rift in America's political environment, setting the stage for devastating consequences that persist to this day. With the economic stakes so high, the unwillingness to collaborate during a time of crisis cast a long and troublesome shadow over Obama's tenure and, ultimately, the political landscape. Tackling economic crisis and healthcare. On the 100th day of his presidency, Obama met with Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner to discuss the economic downturn occurring worldwide. As the G20 summit in London approached, Obama's task was to convince the leaders, including those of Russia and China, that fiscal stimulus was necessary. After much persuasion, the G20 eventually agreed on a stimulus deal. Meanwhile, back in the United States, Obama addressed the broken healthcare system. Despite the risk of failure, he pushed for a universal healthcare system, striving to gain bipartisan support in order to help millions of Americans. During his early days in office, President Obama met with Tim Geithner to assess the economic situation. Unlike prior discussions, the economy seemed to be recovering, but the financial crisis had already reached global proportions. As a result, the key issue on the 2009 G20 summit agenda in London was finding the appropriate solution to address the crisis. Obama's challenge was to persuade the G20, particularly Russia and China, to back fiscal stimulus, despite their reluctance. He found common ground with European leaders Angela Merkel and Nicolas Sarkozy, the latter of whom eventually became an enthusiastic supporter of the stimulus deal. Consequently, an agreement was reached at the summit, reflecting the power of diplomacy during times of crisis. While Obama's thoughts were focused on global economic problems, an unexpected gift from Ted Kennedy, a Portuguese water dog, brought joy and comfort to the first family. However, Kennedy's terminal illness served as a poignant reminder of the millions of Americans who were suffering from a severely broken healthcare system. Obama's insistence on tackling this issue, despite potential political consequences, showcased his determination to provide universal healthcare. In 2009, over 43 million Americans lacked health insurance, and healthcare costs consistently skyrocketed. Campaigning for wide-reaching healthcare legislation amid the turbulent economic climate was a substantial risk, especially as public approval ratings were expected to take a hit. Nevertheless, Obama pursued this worthy cause, even amidst congressional chaos. Obama aimed to develop a healthcare bill capable of gaining bipartisan support, but Republicans had other intentions. However, his steadfast commitment to providing healthcare for millions of vulnerable Americans, regardless of political obstacles, solidified Obama's legacy as a champion for accessible healthcare for all. The battle for affordable care. The Affordable Care Act initially faced strong opposition from Republicans, who labeled it as a government takeover. Despite this pushback, the Tea Party's rising influence, and a challenging political environment, Obama's administration managed to pass the legislation. However, the 2010 midterm elections, marked by the Democrats' losses in both the House and the Senate, hinted at the difficulties that lay ahead. In the early stages of the Affordable Care Act, Republicans actively opposed the legislation. They discovered that by portraying the policy as a government takeover, they could incite anger among their voter base. Consequently, McConnell effectively employed this language in his attacks on the proposed law. During the summer of 2009, the Tea Party gained prominence as a right-wing effort to amplify voter fears. Exploiting the same social media channels that contributed to Obama's electoral success, local Tea Party chapters drummed up opposition to the plan they dubbed Obamacare. One of their prominent tactics was to revive the baseless rumor that Obama had been born in Kenya and was, therefore, unqualified for the presidency. While Obama doubted his ability to fully counter this growing opposition, he sought to bolster Democrats in Congress. With this aim, he organized a primetime address before a joint session, which was marred by a South Carolina congressman's unprecedented outburst, yelling, "You lie," at Obama during the speech. Despite these setbacks, Obama succeeded in pushing the Affordable Care Act through the Senate on Christmas Eve 2009, following a grueling 24-hour debate, and later through the House. The passage of the legislation marked a fulfilled promise for Obama and his administration. After witnessing their significant achievements, including preventing a depression, stabilizing the global financial system, and passing the historic healthcare bill, the Democrats braced themselves for the upcoming midterm elections. They anticipated challenges, given the economy was still struggling and the public's suffering persisted. Voters appeared disillusioned despite Obama's interventions to prevent worse outcomes. These factors culminated in a significant loss for the Democrats during the 2010 midterms, as they lost 63 seats in the House and their supermajority in the Senate. This considerable shift foreshadowed a much more difficult political road ahead. Balancing values and realities. As a reformist president, Obama found that his values often clashed with the harsh realities of his role in foreign policy. In the face of challenges such as the war in Afghanistan and the uprising in Egypt, he had to critically assess his decisions, balancing the ideologies he stood for while governing in a complex and unpredictable world. During his early years in the Oval Office, Obama identified himself as a reformist rather than a radical. This perspective was constantly challenged by his foreign policy decisions. For instance, Obama grappled with the war in Afghanistan, where a radical approach would have been disastrous. The corrupt and ineffective government, along with the population living under Taliban rule, meant that withdrawing troops entirely was not a viable option. Instead, he found himself reluctantly authorizing the deployment of thousands of additional soldiers. This decision on Afghanistan was further complicated when Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize. He was stunned, as he felt that sending more young people into war hardly justified such a prestigious award. The recognition highlighted the gap between the expectations of his presidency and the reality of it. Another challenging moment arose in 2010 when Egypt experienced massive protests calling for the removal of autocrat Hosni Mubarak. As a candidate or senator, Obama would have easily supported democratic reform. However, as the president, he had to carefully consider the implications of his stance. A stable Egypt under Mubarak had strategic value for the U.S., and the rise of the Islamist organization, the Muslim Brotherhood, could potentially disrupt U.S. Middle East relations. Despite the potential risks, Obama decided to follow his conscience and publicly supported the protesters, requesting Mubarak to step down. This marked the end of an era in the Middle East but also unleashed a series of catastrophic events in the region, affecting Syria, Bahrain, and later, Benghazi, Libya. Navigating a tumultuous world, Obama faced the challenge of reconciling his personal values with the reality of his responsibilities, striving for a delicate balance between ideals and actions. With each decision, he had to consider the potential consequences and their impact, both domestically and globally, all while maintaining a commitment to the principles he had entered office with. This journey served as a testament to the complexities of leadership in a volatile and interconnected global community, where every choice must be weighed against the needs and demands of varying factions. The Takedown of Osama. Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks, had evaded capture for years, until President Obama resolved to prioritize the search for him. In 2010, the CIA tracked a suspicious figure, known as the Pacer, in a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. The chance that it was bin Laden was estimated at 60 to 80%. Obama greenlit a secret and risky special ops mission. The mission was a success, and as news of bin Laden's death spread, it reignited feelings of national unity and provided a sense of closure for the 9/11 families. The elusive Osama bin Laden, the brains of the devastating 9/11 attacks, remained untraceable since December 2001. Upon taking office, President Obama sought to prioritize the capture of bin Laden, considering his notorious freedom as a provocation to America's power and a source of torment for the families of 9/11 victims. A breakthrough occurred in 2010 when CIA analysts discovered a suspicious compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Intelligence suggested that the man inside, dubbed the Pacer, was likely bin Laden. Taller than 6 feet, the Pacer never ventured beyond the compound, burned his garbage instead of tossing it, and had a family size mirroring bin Laden's. For exercise, he ambled in circles in the compound's yard. The CIA estimated the likelihood of this man being bin Laden at 60 to 80%. With this information, it was up to Obama to determine how to act on this intelligence without tipping off the Pakistanis or alerting any others who didn't strictly need to know. Obama was well aware that if bin Laden caught wind of the Americans' intelligence, he would vanish instantly. After careful deliberation, Obama authorized a risky special operations mission. Navy SEALs were tasked with infiltrating Pakistan from Afghanistan, raiding bin Laden's suspected compound, eliminating him, and escaping before Pakistani authorities were any the wiser. As the countdown to the raid began, anxiety soared. On the day of the mission, Obama spent time playing cards with his staff and glued to a television screen broadcasting the live military operation. When confirmation of bin Laden's death arrived, the tension was lifted. News of the successful mission quickly spread, triggering celebrations across the country, with patriotic chants roaring outside the White House. The nation's mood shifted with renewed unity and satisfaction, as the country had achieved a significant victory against the forces that threatened its security. Upon returning to the White House after congratulating the victorious SEAL team, President Obama sensed relief while gazing at the Potomac River below. Fully aware of upcoming challenges, a combative Congress, a strenuous re-election campaign, and future hard-hitting decisions, this night, at least, marked a crucial victory in some well-deserved peace.
In summary, A Promised Land offers an enlightening and compelling view of Barack Obama's life and political career. Readers gain a deeper understanding of the challenges he faced, his vision for the United States, and the perseverance needed to surmount various obstacles. Through his narration, we get to see the world through the eyes of a man who rose through the ranks with unwavering determination and an unwavering sense of purpose. Whether you agree or disagree with his policies, there is no denying the impact of Barack Obama's presidency on the world stage and the indelible mark he has left on American history.